but I'll just jump into it of what I'd like to share with our graduates and you all this morning. When I thought about what I'd like to share, my mind kept wandering back to about exactly 10 months ago, July 31st, 2024. Before I explain why, let me set the stage to help you visualize the scene. The setting is Belize. It's the Wednesday of Summit High School's week-long mission trip with Praying Pelican Missions in the little village of Sand Hill, Belize. Now, first off, let me just say this was possibly the favorite mission trip of my entire life, with amazing kingdom-building ministry taking place through VBS, food distribution, work projects, and prayer walks. But that's a story for another time. Instead, I want to focus on what's going on with me, all right? How self-absorbed. But on the exterior, it's the same old me with the same old youth group and the same old shenanigans happening all around me. Shenanigans like I'm trying to stop Bad Gabe from attempting to catch a tarantula the size of a softball with his bare hands. I'm trying to survive the smell of teenage boys who spend every waking minute of 95-degree heat somehow, still have the energy to play constant smash net, spike ball, and ultimate frisbee, which just leads to more sweat and things that the limited showers can't solve. I'm looking for my stolen cell phone, which students like Aaliyah, Andrew, Marie, Evangeline, and Will have stolen to fill it with thousands of selfies. A nice gift for my storage space. I'm trying my best to stay calm as I explain to Caitlin, Emma, and Evie that the very real and very scary snake that was just outside their door was totally never going to get into their sleeping room. There was no worries. I'm having to talk very loudly in every conversation to overcome shouts of, "No, he's the killer," from the card game Mafia, as Lay, Gus, Whit, and many others play game after game after game of Mafia. I'm trying my best to get the guys' room at 1 or 2 in the morning to stop talking about their crushes who are just one sleeping room over in the girls' sleeping room, and instead convincing them to finally go to bed. And last but not least, I'm trying to navigate the 4-season-long Jack and Millie drama. Will they or won't they end up together? In other words, it was just an average Wednesday at youth group. And I loved all of it. But while that was happening on the exterior, on the inside, I was actually kind of an emotional wreck. You see, I like things steady. I like things consistent and regular. I like routines. Needless to say, and my wife could attest, my mom's in the room today, I am not a huge fan of change. Can anyone else here relate? Not big fans of change? Change is unknown, change is scary, and change is difficult. In this period 10 months ago, I'm going to cut it here for time, but I was in the middle of a huge season of change in my life. Here at church, I've been serving as youth pastor for 6 years. I was preparing to change my role to family life pastor. I was in the midst of hiring my replacement. The youth group itself was going through a lot of upheaval. After being years of serving 7th through 12th grade ministry, we're going to split into middle school with 6th graders. It was all things that I was excited about, all things that I thought needed to happen. But it was hard because it was different. A large and influential class of graduates, a class of 2024 that I dearly loved and had throughout my entire tenure in youth group, was about to transition out. It was their time to leave the nest. And then in my home life, I knew I needed to be home more often. I was learning to be a father of 2 very small and very mobile young children instead of 1. And for the first time, my wife Alexis and I were faced with big decisions like, hey, where's our 4-year-old going to go to school for kindergarten? We were trying to learn on-the-job parenting, navigating discipline, emotional regulation, the early education of a 4-year-old while still being sleep-deprived by the needs of a toddler. And it is with this backdrop, on that Wednesday morning, with all the chaos happening on the external and all of the things internally inside me being an emotional wreck, that during my morning devotions, I was reading through Isaiah, and I came to this passage in Isaiah 43, and the usually calm as a cucumber me sobbed as I felt like God's word was speaking to me exactly what I needed at just the right time. So the short passage that I want to share with our graduates this morning is from that passage in Isaiah 43. Because as we honor you this morning, we recognize that you're standing on the edge of some major life changes. New independence, closing the chapter on 13 straight years of school. You have new jobs or a new school or new friendships, new responsibilities, and a lot of unknown in your life ahead. But it's not just the students who are navigating change. Parents are adjusting to new roles, they're shifting family dynamics, and they're learning to let go as parents in new ways. And really, all of us in this room, whether we're 18 or nearing 100, are always moving through seasons of change, sometimes welcomed, sometimes unexpected, and in the midst of it all, we need to hear the steady, faithful voice of God. So let's turn our attention now to Isaiah 43, starting at verse 15, where God speaks directly into seasons of change with both comfort and challenge. And if you want to follow along, it will be on the side screen as well. Isaiah 43. I am the Lord, your Holy One, Israel's creator and king. I am the Lord who opened a way through the waters, making a dry path through the sea. I called forth the mighty army of Egypt with all its chariots and horses. I drew them beneath the waves and they drowned, their lives snuffed out like a smoldering candle wick. But forget all that. It is nothing compared to what I am going to do. For I am about to do something new. See, I have already begun. Do you not see it? I will make a pathway through the wilderness. I will create rivers in the dry wasteland. So with the very brief time I have left, I'm going to quickly share 4 truths from this passage for everyone who finds themselves in a season of new. So whether you're heading off to college, starting a new job, sending your kid off to adulthood, or just wondering what's next in your life, I hope this is for you. Hopefully you won't dread change like me, but instead can embrace it with excitement. So my first point is right there at the very beginning, verses 15 through 17. God begins by reminding Israel who he is. And I think this is important, that we need to remember God's faithfulness in the past. God says, I am the Lord, your Holy One, Israel's creator and king. The writer here, the prophet Isaiah, reminds the people of Israel about God's faithfulness in their history. He reminds them of the Exodus, how God performed incredible miracles to save his people. God performed the 10 plagues, he made a path through the Red Sea, and then he defeated Egypt's armies to rescue his people. Why is this a good starting spot for us? Well, because when you're facing the unknown, it's essential to remember where you've already seen God move. Pastor Dom touched on this last week when reading from Matthew 6 and overcoming worry and anxiety, but remember the ways God has already proven himself faithful in your life. So graduates, think about your life so far. There are things God has carried you through. Maybe it was anxiety, it was a hard class, it was a broken friendship, it was a difficulty, or even a year that didn't go as you had hoped. Parents, remember the prayers that you prayed for your kids when they were small. God was faithful then, and he'll be faithful now. Our faith grows when we remember. So just pause for a second, everyone, and ask yourself, where are things you can be thankful for in your past that demonstrates God's faithfulness? What can you be thankful for that demonstrates God's faithfulness? And I encourage you to write it down or tell someone, to share your testimony. Make a list of what God has done so that when you feel like you're in the wilderness, you can say, he's gotten me this far. He's not going to stop now. My second takeaway was from verse 18, and it's to don't dwell on discouragement or defeat. Verse 18 says, but forget all that. It's nothing compared to what I am going to do now. This can feel like a contradiction, right? Didn't we just say to remember? But here's the difference. Remember God's faithfulness, but don't dwell on your failures, your fears, or what didn't go according to plan. As Isaiah wrote prophetically to Israel, they were mired in the desperate circumstances of captivity and exile. God wanted to put their eyes on the new work he would do, so he began with a reminder to not remember the former things. If they were stuck in the failure of their sin or discouragement of the past, they would never go forward with the new thing God had for them. So some of you may look back and feel shame about certain aspects of high school. Or as parents, you might feel shame about certain aspects of your parenting or your spiritual life and where you're at currently with the Lord. Maybe you think, I didn't make the most of it, or I wasn't the person I wanted to be, or I don't feel ready. God says to you, if you're in that moment, don't dwell there. One of my favorite Bible characters, I think because I can relate with him so much, is the disciple Peter. He messes up kind of a lot. I think why I relate with him. But there's this beautiful moment in John 21 where Peter, who had just denied Jesus 3 times, meets the risen Christ. And Jesus doesn't shame him. He restores him. He tells Peter, feed my sheep. In other words, Peter, stop replaying your worst moment. I've got new work for you to do. So I want you again to pause for a moment and reflect. What is God calling you, graduates, to move on from? What is God calling you to leave behind? Maybe it's a sin, a past struggle, an embarrassment, a shame. Confess it, receive forgiveness, and move on. Don't drag your old regrets into your new season. Let Jesus meet you there, and he's not finished with you yet. The third point comes from verse 19, and that is to embrace the new thing God is going to do. For I am about to do something new. See, I've already begun. Do you not see it? So here's the invitation, graduates. Open your eyes to the new thing God is doing. I love this verse. I find it so powerful and encouraging. In the NIV, the verse reads, see, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? This shows that God is always at work, even when we can't see it or perceive it. He's creating new opportunities and paths for us, even in the wilderness or wastelands of life. Sometimes we get so caught up in the past or our current struggles that we fail to see the new things God is doing. It's important to keep our eyes open and be willing to embrace these changes, trusting that God has a plan. For our graduates, the new thing might look like a job, a college, a trade school, or simply just taking some time to figure out what happens next, taking some time to figure things out. But even in all of that, God has work to do in you and through you. You don't have to have it all figured out right now. You just need to say yes to the new thing God is doing. And new things are uncomfortable, right? It's like planting a seed. At first, there's just dirt. You can't see anything. It doesn't look like anything's happening. But underneath, God is growing something. So be patient, graduates, and don't give up on the process. Parents, you're in a season of new too. Maybe the house is getting quieter. Maybe your role is changing. Things that could be commands before are now more gentle suggestions. Whatever it is, don't resist the new thing God is doing in you. He's still writing your story too, and your kids will still need you. My last point is from the second half of verse 19, and that is that we all can trust God in the unknown. Second half of verse 19 says, I will make a pathway through the wilderness. I will create rivers in the dry wasteland. So here's the promise. God is not just ahead of you, he is actively preparing the way. Graduates, you will not always know what's next. You might not immediately get the job you wanted or get into the program you hoped for. You might not get married or start a family at the age you had planned to. You might feel lonely at times. You might even fail at something. But God doesn't say to us, hey, figure it out on your own. Instead, God says to us, I am making a way. I will make a pathway for you through the wilderness. The key in all this is recognizing that we're not walking according to our own will or our own plans, but we're walking in God's will for our lives. When we hold our own hopes and dreams loosely, allowing God to take control, we can trust that he's leading us down the path that truly matters. One that might look different than what we expected, but is always filled with purpose and his faithfulness. Francis Chan once said, our greatest fear should not be failure, but is succeeding at things in life that don't really matter. Our greatest fear should not be a failure, but of succeeding at things in life that don't really matter. So pursue eternal things. Pursue the things God has for you on the path that he has for you. You may not know your 5-year plan, but if you know the one who's going with you, that's enough. So here's what I want to leave to say to the class of 2025 and to everyone else who might feel the tension of change in this season of life. Remember the ways that God has been faithful in your past. Refuse to dwell in the failures or struggles that you've had, and instead embrace the new thing God is going to do through you. And lastly, trust God when the path ahead is unclear, because he goes before you and makes a way for you. You don't go alone. You go with the God who parts seas, who makes streams in the desert, who says, see, I am doing a new thing, so continue to walk with him. So let's pray. Heavenly Father, it is a special morning to just celebrate your faithfulness over years of this youth ministry, of this church, the way that you have shaped and grown these young men and women who love and pursue you. Thank you for their families. Thank you for the leaders, the coaches, the pastors and mentors who have poured into their life, Lord, and may we be able to celebrate that. But as we look forward to some unknowns, just some change, just some new in life, Lord, I pray that your word can be an encouragement for us, that we'd be able to embrace it with excitement, not with dread and fear, but instead with full confidence and promise that you go before us, that you love us, that you have plans for us to prosper us, not to harm us, for good and not for evil, Lord. So I just pray that blessing over these grads. I pray that over these parents, pray it over the grandparents, pray it over this church as we embrace a new season, that we can do it with full excitement and anticipation, that you'll prove yourself faithful again. So we love you, Lord, and praise things in your name. Amen.